Okay, all right. Good afternoon. So, I welcome you all to the second session of Indian polity. In the previous class, we discussed about introduction to Indian polity, and I told what is a constitution making body, and we discussed about in brief about Constituent Assembly. What was the process involved in making of the Constituent Assembly? How was the India divided? That is in terms of British provinces, princely states, and also commissionerate area. And what was the strength of the Constituent Assembly? It was 389. And which plan was successful in implementing Constituent Assembly? Cabinet mission plan. Before that, Cripps mission came, and before that, August offer came. And Cripps mission spoke about partition. Okay, and Cripps mission, who it was headed by Stafford Cripps. He was a labor minister in Winston Churchill's government. And also in cabinet mission, who were the three people? Patrick Lawrence, A.V. Alexander, and also it was who? Stafford Cripps again. And but A.V. Alexander, or who was the president? President was Patrick Lawrence. Okay, and Constituent Assembly was partly elected and also partly nominated. That is Constituent Assembly. When you talk about Constituent Assembly, elected because when it comes from British provinces, it was election. When it comes from princely states, the kings used to nominate. So this much you have to know. Okay, and the idea of Constituent Assembly was first given in a country by America. At the country level, it was by America, and in India, it was given by Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Okay, and formal demand was first by M.N. Roy. Now, we learnt what was the body that was involved in making of the constitution. Now, we have to understand, before making of the constitution itself is one chapter, but before that we have to understand what are the sources of the constitution. Okay, what are the sources? So, we say that Indian constitution is a borrowed constitution. Indian constitution is a borrowed constitution. We say that Indian constitution, we call it as a borrowed constitution. Okay, of course we have borrowed, but how far is it true? It is not like cut and paste. We have borrowed from somewhere and directly pasted in our constitution. If that was the case, we wouldn't have taken 2 years, 11 months and 18 days to frame the constitution. What was the duration that Constituent Assembly took? It took 2 years, 11 months and 18 days. Okay, 18 days. That is from 1946 December 9 to when the constitution became enforced. That is 1949 November 26. Correct? No? Till this many days was taken because detailed discussion on each of the provisions of the constitution took place. Okay. So, it is a borrowed constitution, but that doesn't mean it was directly copy paste. Okay. We modified it to the need of the hour. Need of the hour means need of the country. That was, it was ruled by the British at that time. So, we made the provisions in such a way that it suits the needs and aspirations of the Indians. So, that's how the constitution principles was borrowed and modified. Now, when I say borrowed, you have to know from which are all the sources we borrowed. Okay, what are all the sources we borrowed? So, when I say sources, it can be various countries we borrowed. Okay, actually in civil services or groups examination, there is one topic, comparison of Indian constitution with that of other countries. That is, you compare Indian constitution with the constitution of other countries. There you study in detail how the President of India functions, how the President of US functions, how the Prime Minister of India functions, how the Prime Minister of UK, that is England, functions. All these things are there. But here we are going to learn what are all the sources. Okay, only that much. They will ask, they will give a source. Okay, they will give the feature, they will ask from which country it was borrowed. Okay, so this is a very highly important chapter. If I say some chapters which you have to study, this is highly important chapter because definitely there is a question, and last time also there was a question from this. Okay, so it is highly important, you have to focus. Okay, and each and every provision we will discuss. So you have to know, because in future classes when we discuss Indian polity in depth, those provisions keep on coming again and again. So briefly I will tell you each of the provisions now itself. So when I talk about the sources, that can be various countries, and also there was one source that is called Government of India Act 1935. Okay, so to rule India, the British made certain rules and regulations. The rules and regulations were like Regulating Act of 1773 and Pitt's India Act. Okay, Government of India Act 1909, Government of India Act 1919, Government of India Act 1935, and Indian Independence Act 1947. All these are the acts and rules they made through these acts. Who? The British. Okay, so one of the act is, major act is Government of India Act 1935. This is the biggest source of the Indian constitution. If they ask which is the biggest source, Government of India Act 1935. Okay, Government of India 1935. This has been asked in many examinations. which is the biggest source of the Indian constitution? It is not British constitution, it is not US constitution, it is Government of India Act 1935. But here there is a trick, there can be a tricky question. So when we see the preamble, what happens? We say that we the people have solemnly resolved to constitute India into sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic. Correct? No? What does the preamble start with? We the people. So it starts with we the people. So in any option, in any question, if they give which is the biggest source of the Indian constitution, in the option if it is having Government of India, okay, US constitution, British constitution and also people, the answer should be people. Okay, the answer should be people, because it is we the people who have made the constitution. Okay, who are the people? Our representatives. Our representatives were who? The people in the Constituent Assembly. They were elected and they were nominated. They were representing us. Who are the people? People like Ambedkar. People like who? Who are all other people? Dr. Rajendra Prasad. All these people are our people. Okay, we made the constitution for ourselves. So if they ask which is the biggest source, it is the people. Okay, and if this is not there, if in the option people is not there, which is the biggest source? Government of India Act 1935. So it is the people, then comes Government of India Act 1935. This you should be aware. Okay, this you must be very aware that if they ask which is the biggest source, it is Government of India Act 1935. If in the option people is there, people is the answer. Clear? Now let us continue. Let us start with Government of India Act 1935. Okay, so I told borrowed constitution because we have borrowed certain principles from various constitution. Like why do we have constitution? In any country, constitution is there because it is for the welfare of the people. Okay, it is for the welfare of the people. Like that, Indian constitution is also for the welfare of the people. So each constitution will have objectives. Okay, similarly, Indian constitution also has various objectives. Like that, similar objectives will be there in other constitution also. But the way to achieve that objective, but the path we take or the road we take to achieve the objective may vary. Why? Because the society in India is different, the society in British is different, the society in USA is different. So you cannot take the same path. Okay, in US they followed the capitalist model. Okay, in Russia they followed complete socialist model. Okay, in India we followed the mixed model, but in the initial stages we followed socialist model. That is, many things were under the government control. We didn't allow private control because already by allowing a company, that is English East India Company, we allowed an entire nation to rule us. That's why in the beginning we followed a more it was towards a socialist bent. Okay, so objectives will be same for every constitution, but the path to reach that objectives may vary. That's why even though Indian constitution is borrowed, the path to achieve those objectives are different. Okay, so let us start with Government of India Act 1935. So if you see the Government of India Act 1935, it is the major source. I have written here, it is the major source. So what are all the features we borrowed? Now we will say the countries and the features we borrowed. Okay, and some of the features I will explain in detail because it is required. Now the first thing is federal scheme. Okay, Government of India Act told us about the federal scheme. So what do you mean by federal scheme? Federal scheme means, see, there are powers. There are powers, okay, or you can say there are various subjects, like water is one subject, forest is one subject, education is one subject, agriculture is one subject, defense is one subject, police is one subject. Like that, there are various subjects. These subjects, that is nothing but who has the power to make laws on those subjects. That we divided into three lists. One is called union list, another one is called state list, another one is called concurrent list. Okay, this union list has major powers and state list also has some powers. Here only state can make laws, here only central government can make laws, here state government can make laws, here both center and state. Okay, but if the central government already has made a law on that, if state government tries to make a law, it is not possible. Only with the permission of the president that law can be made. This much you remember. Already here, if there is a tussle between central government and state government, central government will override. That means central government has the highest power here when it comes to this one. Apart from this, there are other subjects, residuary subjects. That is the subjects which are left over. That lies with the residuary powers lies with the central government. Residuary powers means, suppose you bring a box. Okay, you divide it among yourself. Okay, but something is left over. The person who brought the box, that person will eat the remaining thing. Okay, same thing is here. So the residuary power means it is with the central government. So here we are dividing the powers between what? Majorly it is between central government and state government. This itself is called what? Federal scheme. Okay, federal scheme. And when we talk about federal scheme, India is called holding together federation. Holding together federation, very important. This you have to remember, holding together federation. Okay, federal scheme means the powers are, you have to remember only this much. Federal scheme means the power is divided between central government and state government. That much you remember. Okay, what kind of federation India has? Holding together federation. But one thing you must understand, the word federation or federalism is nowhere mentioned in the constitution. Okay, the word federal or federation is nowhere mentioned in the constitution. It is implicitly mentioned, not directly mentioned. Okay, it is not exclusively mentioned in the constitution. This you must remember. This is about federal scheme. Now coming to office of governor. Now each state has a governor. This office of governor also came from Government of India Act 1935. I will not dig deep into it. This you directly know it. Okay. Next, judiciary. Judiciary, you must know that government has three wings. That is, one is legislature, one is executive, one is judiciary. Okay. Legislature, it is to make laws. Executive, that is the ministers, all these people, what they will do? They will implement the laws. Implement the laws. Judiciary, when the law is made, whether the law is correct or is it harmful to the citizens or is it for the welfare of the citizens. If it is against the constitution provisions, then what will judiciary do? Judiciary will review that law and strike off that law. Okay, it will strike off that law. Otherwise, what will happen if judiciary is not there? Government will make the laws as per the needs of the or suitable to the party. Okay, each government will be having its own party, right? They will make laws which is suitable for their people, and it will be arbitrary for other people. That means what? It will be against the will of other people. It will be will of only some people. Okay, so that time what will happen? There will be divide in the country. So that should not happen, right? So for that, judiciary is there. For that, judiciary is there. That is the third wing of the democracy. In democracy, there are three wings: legislature, executive, judiciary, or you can say government. Okay, this judiciary concept came from where? Government of India Act 1935. Okay, they can give confusion question. Government of India Act 1909, 1919, 1935, none of this. The answer is 1935. Clear? Okay. Next thing is Public Service Commission. Public Service Commission, like we have TSPSC, APPSC, okay, KPSC, UPSC, Public Service Commission, that is to conduct the examinations for various government posts. That also came from Government of India Act 1935. But before Public Service Commission, there was another commission called Federal Public Service Commission. Federal Public Service Commission, it is Federal Public Service Commission. It came under because of Government of India Act 1919. It came because of Government of India Act 1919, but it came into existence in 1926. Okay, Federal Public Service Commission. Before Public Service Commission, it was called Federal Public Service Commission. Even RBI was also called Federal Bank. In 1950, it was made RBI. Okay, till that time, till 1934, it was called what? Federal Bank. Here, it is called Federal Public Service Commission. It was made because of the Government of India Act 1919. Okay, and what happened? It came into existence in 1926. This you must remember. Okay. Now, when I talk about this Federal Public Service Commission, all these things, when I talk about education policy of the British in history, there you will understand what is Public Service Commission, when Indians were allowed to take the exam, all these things you will understand. You will understand about Wood's Dispatch, Macaulay's Minutes, all these things. Okay, how they wanted to spread English education, but Indians were against it. They wanted even vernacular education. All these things, debates you will learn when we do education policy of the British. Okay, so this is about Public Service Commission. It came from what? Government of India Act 1935. So Public Service Commission, actually here Polity will study about UPSC also, State Public Service Commission also, and two states merged, there can be a Public Service Commission, that is also called JPSC, that is Joint Public Service Commission. That is, one Public Service Commission can conduct exam for two states. Okay, and emergency provisions like I told you in the yesterday's class, there can be national emergency, state emergency, and financial emergency. This come from where? This came from Government of India Act 1935. Next, administrative details. Administrative details means just understand how the administration to take place. How the administration should take place, that details is given in which? Government of India Act 1935. This much is enough when it comes to Government of India Act 1935. It is the major source. So you should know this. Okay. Next, let us move forward. Next, coming to US Constitution. Very important. US Constitution. First thing is what? Judicial review. Judicial review, already I told you. Suppose a legislature makes some law which is against the provisions of the Constitution. That time what will happen? Judiciary will come into picture. That is Supreme Court or High Court. What they will do? They will go through the law thoroughly. They will see whether the provisions of the constitution, it is against the provisions of the constitution, or what they will do is they will completely strike off the law, or they will strike off a part of the law which is against the constitution. Suppose this much is the law, if this is against the constitution, this entire thing they will strike off, or this entire thing is against the constitution means this entire thing they will strike off. They can strike off a part of the law or entire law itself. That is called judicial review. They will go through the law. That is the meaning of judicial review. So whatever the action of the government is done, that can be reviewed by the judiciary. Understood? That is called checks and balance. In polity we call it as checks and balance. So one wing is checked by another. Got it? So this is the meaning of judicial review. Next, fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are highly important. Whenever we talk about polity, we talk about fundamental rights. Fundamental rights, we all have fundamental rights. Okay, this is borrowed from US Constitution. In US Constitution, it was directly not called as fundamental rights. It was called as Bill of Rights. It was called as Bill of Rights. What it was called as? It was called as Bill of Rights. I told you yesterday while discussing introduction, I told you there is something called amendment of the constitution. Okay, that means in the original constitution some features were there. Later there were so many amendments through which the constitution also changed. That's why constitution is also called a living document. Living document means as per the needs of the society, there will be amendments to the constitution and there will be changes made to the constitution. Okay, that's why constitution is also called as living document. Similarly, fundamental rights, okay, initially in the beginning of the constitution, whenever I say constitution, you should understand I am talking about the present constitution. Or when I say original constitution, it is 1950 constitution. In the 1950 constitution, which a constitution came into force, there were 7 fundamental rights. Okay, 7 fundamental rights. Now we have only 6 fundamental rights. One fundamental right, that is right to property. Right to property was removed and it was made just a constitutional right under Article 300A. Earlier it was in Article 31, now it is made under Article 300A. So this was removed. This we will deal in detail when we do fundamental rights. Fundamental rights, at least 2 classes we need, so that you understand in depth, because they are asking questions repeatedly from fundamental rights. Fundamental rights is a high weightage chapter. Okay, fundamental rights definitely you must know, not just from the point of examination, but from the knowledge of point of view of gaining knowledge to know about the society, how the society functions. You should know your fundamental rights. That is very important, because the word itself says fundamental. It means what? These rights are very important for the overall development of the individual. Okay, be it educational development, economic development, social development, spiritual development, for everything fundamental rights are highly important. Next, coming to independent judiciary. Independent judiciary. So when I told here, see here, I told 3 wings of the government or democracy. I told separately I have written. That means what? This executive or legislature should not influence judiciary. That means judiciary should be independent. It should not be biased. It should take neutral actions. That is the meaning of independent judiciary. Okay. Independent judiciary means what? The government should not influence the Supreme Court to take this decision. Government should not say, please take the decision in favor of us. That is not the work of the judiciary. Judiciary will look at what is given in front of them. Based on the facts, it will give the judgment. That is the meaning of independent judiciary. Okay. Next, impeachment procedure of the president. Impeachment procedure of the president. Okay. Impeachment means, before that I want to tell, independent judiciary I am talking. One thing you must understand, Supreme Court, High Court is there. Apart from that, there is a district court. So one thing you must understand, when I talk about independent judiciary, in Supreme Court there are so many judges, but one topmost judge is called Chief Justice of India. High Courts will have Chief Justice of that High Court, but we have something called CJI, that is Chief Justice of India. Okay. Now we are going to appoint the 51st Chief Justice of India. This is very important from current affairs point of view. Now we are going to appoint 51st Chief Justice of India, and his name is Sanjeev Khanna. Sanjeev Khanna. Who is the 50th? You should know that. I am not going to tell you. 50th, who is that? Present one, who is that? You should know that. I am not going to tell you. 51st will be Sanjeev Khanna. Got it? He is the Chief Justice. He will be the Chief Justice. Okay, got it. Now, impeachment of procedure of the president. Impeachment means it is nothing but removal of the president. Okay, president is appointed for a period of 5 years. Vice president is also appointed for a period of 5 years. So if you want to remove the president, that word is called what? Impeachment. How to remove the president, there is some certain procedure. It's a very difficult procedure. It's not so easy to remove the president. President is what? First citizen of the country. Vice president is what? Second citizen of the country. To remove the first citizen of the country, it's highly difficult, or I can say it is nearly impossible. Okay, so that's why till now no president has been impeached, no president has been removed. Similarly, to remove the judges of the Supreme Court or to remove the judges of the High Court, it is highly difficult. Till now, no judge of the Supreme Court, no judge of the High Court has been removed. Okay, only after the tenure they have gone or they have resigned. Okay, president also, till now no president of India has been impeached. So, but how to remove the president? That procedure is given by US Constitution. Next thing is the vice president acting as a chairman of the upper house. The vice president acting as the chairman of the upper house. Now you have to focus very much. Okay, so see here there is parliament. This is parliament, you think. Here we have Lok Sabha. Here we have Rajya Sabha. Here we have Lok Sabha. Here we have Rajya Sabha. In Lok Sabha, the people, majority of the people, we vote them directly. We vote directly and we call them as MPs, member of parliaments. Among so many MPs, one person will be elected. Among so many MPs, there will be so many MPs here. Okay, MPs here. Among them, they will do election within the parliament and they make one person as speaker. They elect one person as speaker. When I talk about speaker, there are other terms also, pro tem speaker, okay, deputy speaker, all these things. But let us now go deep into it. Now, one person they will elect as speaker. Okay, now we have who? The speaker is Om Birla in what? Lok Sabha. But when it comes to Rajya Sabha, we don't elect the people. There also MPs are there. We don't elect them. They are indirectly elected. They are indirectly elected means the MLAs, MPs, they elect the Rajya Sabha people. Okay, so here we have MPs. Okay, here speaker will look after the Lok Sabha, but someone should be there to look after the Rajya Sabha also, right? So here there will be no speaker. Here we call it as chairman. Here we call it as chairman. If he is not elected from here, from where he will come? That means there is a person, president is there. Similarly, there is vice president. If you elect a vice president, he is automatically the chairman of Rajya Sabha. Okay, he is automatically the chairman of Rajya Sabha. Understood? So if you elect a vice president, he is automatically the chairman of Rajya Sabha. That is the meaning of ex officio. That is the meaning of ex officio. Okay, understood? Suppose vice president is elected, that person becomes the chairman automatically. If he loses the position of vice president, the chairman will also not be there. That is the meaning of ex officio. You elect the vice president, automatically you will get the post of chairman. Understood? That is the meaning of it. So vice president, chairman. Got it? So that meaning or that kind of term was given by vice president acting as a chairman of the upper house was given by which constitution? US Constitution. I am taking time when it comes to Government of India Act, US Constitution and British Constitution because they are highly important. They are giving lot of features for the Indian Constitution. So the vice president acting as a chairman of upper house. This is present even now. Okay, our vice president is Jagdeep Dhankar. Okay, but he is also the chairman of Rajya Sabha. He is also the chairman of Rajya Sabha. Got it? Now, next thing is removal of the Supreme Court and High Court judges. Just like how we have to remove presidents, here we don't call it as impeachment, we call it as removal. This removal is also spoken by US Constitution. Got it? Okay, but till now no judge has been removed. Till now no president has been impeached. Whenever we talk about president, we say impeach. Judges means removal. Vice president also removal. Even now, till now no vice president is also removed. Okay, got it? Next thing. This is about US Constitution. Next, British Constitution. British Constitution, US Constitution is presidential form of government. British Constitution is parliamentary form of government. They have a prime minister. But US does it have a prime minister? No. Here we are having a prime minister. We follow this form more. That form is also there for us, but we follow this form more because we were already ruled by them. So it is automatic that we follow more features from them. Okay, Government of India Act, ultimately it was by whom? It was by British itself. So see here, British Constitution, rule of law. Rule of law means what? That is any action or any action of the government should be taken as per the rule that is given in the law. That is, you have to treat everyone equally. Everyone is equal under the eyes of the law. That is the meaning of rule of law. Rule of law, there are various what? Connotations of rule of law that you don't want to get into. Equal protection of law, equality before law, all these things are there. Due process of law, all these things are there. That you don't have to worry. Just understand rule of law is given by whom? British Constitution. Rule of law means everything should take place as per the law. Okay, it should not be arbitrary. Okay, I should allow you to class as per the rules. Simply, I should not bring some other person and make him sit here. It should be as per the rules. He should enroll to the course. Okay, that is the meaning of rule of law. Next, parliamentary form of government, that is we are having a parliament. That parliamentary form of government is given by British Constitution. What are the features of parliamentary form of government? I will tell you when we discuss parliament. We will discuss the features of parliament, and we will also discuss what is Rajya Sabha, what are its composition, what is the tenure. We will also discuss what is Lok Sabha. Then you will understand the parliamentary form of government. This parliamentary form of government is given by whom? US or British? British. Okay. Judiciary is given by whom? Judiciary is given by Government of India Act, but independent judiciary is given by US. See here. Independent judiciary is by US. Judiciary is by Government of India Act. Okay. With revision you will understand. Don't worry. Next, single citizenship. Single citizenship means in US there is dual citizenship. Suppose California is a state. There are 50 states in US. California is a state. Suppose you belong to California. Then you are also the citizen of California and you are also the citizen of US. But in Britain it is not like that. You are only the citizen of Britain. Similarly in India we also have single citizenship. You are only the citizen of India. We cannot say that you are the citizen of Telangana. I cannot say I am the citizen of what? Punjab. I cannot say you are the citizen of Andhra Pradesh. You are only the citizen of India. No matter whatever the state, we are having single citizenship. Okay, that is the meaning of single citizenship. This is borrowed from where? British Constitution. Next, cabinet system. Cabinet system means from elected MPs, the people who form the government, we have something called Council of Ministers. Among this Council of Ministers, there is a small group, that is who call it as ministers, actual ministers. They sit in the cabinet. That system is called what? Cabinet ministers. We can see in newspapers, today cabinet meeting is happening. This meeting, they decided this one, they decided this one, or they decided this law, or decided that this much should be the tax. The cabinet decided this much. That is the meaning of what? Cabinet meeting is nothing but cabinet system, where there will be a CM and his ministers, or where there will be a PM and his ministers. That is the meaning of cabinet. Got it? Next is legislative procedure. In cabinet system, among the ministers, some ministers will be very close. Okay, so in your house, if normal people come, you will make them sit in the sofa. But if they are some very close to you, there you will take you to the kitchen also, and you will give them whatever you want. So that is why in the cabinet, I am telling you one concept. In the cabinet, those people who are very close to the Prime Minister or CM, that cabinet is called kitchen cabinet. Okay, that is called kitchen cabinet. That is why I gave the analogy of your home. That is called kitchen cabinet. Now legislative procedure. Legislative procedure means how a law should be made. Okay, how a law should be passed, how a law should be made on anything, that is given by British Constitution. Next, bicameralism. Bicameralism means there are two houses, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. That is given by whom? British Constitution. Got it? Bicameralism means there is upper house and lower house. See, in parliament we have Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. The Rajya Sabha is called what? Upper house. This is called lower house. Okay, this upper house because there are elderly people. This is also called Council of States. This Rajya Sabha represents the states. The word Rajya Sabha, Rajya means state, correct? No, it is Council of States because it is representing the states. Okay, it is representing the states. So this is called Council of States. This is lower house. This is called House of People. This is called what? House of People. Okay, each and every word is very important. What I am talking. When it comes to parliament, we have two houses, upper house, lower house. Upper house is called Rajya Sabha, lower house is called L. Lower house L is there, Lok Sabha, and upper house is also called Council of States. That is Rajya, Council of States. This is House of People. Okay, House of People because what? Lok Sabha, we are electing the people. That's why it is called House of People. Because Lok Sabha, we are electing them in our general elections. That is why it is called as what? House of People. This is about this one. Next is prerogative writs. Prerogative writs, this I will tell you when we do fundamental rights. What is writs? What is prerogative writs? All these things I will tell you. What is writs? I will tell you when we do fundamental rights. There is writs like habeas corpus, mandamus, okay, certiorari, prohibitory, all these things are there. This I will tell you. Quo warranto, all these things I will tell you when we do fundamental rights. For now, understand these writs are also borrowed from British Constitution. One is rule of law, parliamentary form of government, single citizenship, bicameralism, cabinet system, legislative procedure and prerogative writs. This is British Constitution. Understood? Clear. So let us move forward. That is Irish Constitution, that is from Ireland. What are the things that we followed? That is Directive Principles of State Policy, that is DPSPs. Fundamental rights is from USA. Directive Principles of State Policy is from what? Irish Constitution. Fundamental rights, it is in part 3 of the Constitution, and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar told that fundamental rights are the heart and soul of the constitution. Fundamental rights are the heart and soul of the constitution, he said. Okay, so fundamental rights are very important. This directive principle, it is talking about the welfare, what the state has to do when it comes to welfare of the people. Fundamental rights, it is for the people. Directive principles, these are directive means you are giving some directives to the government. Government, you have to do this, you have to do that. For what? For the welfare of the people. That is given by directive principles of state policy. It is borrowed from Irish constitution. Next, coming to nomination of member to the upper house. I told you while discussing Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha, we elect people directly. When it comes to Rajya Sabha, they are elected indirectly, and there is also the procedure for nomination. How you nominate? 12 members are nominated. Okay. Rajya Sabha, there are 250 members. In that, 238 members are directly elected. 12 members are nominated. How to nominate them? That is given by Irish constitution. Understood? 250, 238 are elected. 12 members are nominated. How to nominate is given by Irish constitution. Okay. Election method of the president. Okay. Next, coming to president. That is the first citizen. How to elect the president? Do we participate in election of the president? No, right? We participate in election of the prime minister. Correct? No. The majority party, they form the prime minister. But we never participate in the election of the president. The election of the president is indirect. The method is called proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. What is this? I'll tell you. What we do election, that is called first past post system. First past post system. But what we do for president, it is called proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. That is the method of election of the president. Okay. So this I will tell you when we discuss about president. President is also highly important chapter. Okay. Certain chapters should be studied together. When I talk about president, I will also tell about governor, because they are almost similar. Okay. The role of president is performed by the governor at the state level. When I talk about prime minister, I will talk about chief minister. Okay, like that. So election method of the president is given by whom? Irish constitution. So the UPSC, election of president and nomination of members to the upper house. Now you can compare this with US. What US says? Removal of the president. Here it is talking about election of the president. There it is talking about chairman of the upper house. Here it is talking about nomination of members to the upper house. And there it is talking about fundamental rights. This is talking about directive principles. Like this you can compare and study. It will be easy for you to remember. Next, Canadian constitution. Canadian constitution, residuary powers with the center. Residuary powers, I told you. When you eat, whatever is left out, the person who brought the food, that person will have. So whatever is leftover power, that is with the center. Okay. Next, federation with a strong center. I told you, federation means what? The power is shared between state government and central government. But the Canadian constitution is saying, although power should be shared, but it should not be equal. Majority of the power should be with the center. That is federation, but with a strong center. Now, suppose war is happening. Okay. That time what will happen? The state governments cannot take their own decision. That time what the central government says, that you have to follow. What the central government said recently when the tensions were arising, they told the police department, everyone, to search in each of the states with respect to security and also for other country people. Correct? No? So that means what? Central government is giving direction, states have to follow. That means at that time the federation becomes unitary. That means it becomes a strong center. That is the meaning of federation with a strong center. Understood? Next, appointment of the state governors by the central government. Now, governor, I told you, office of governor is given by whom? Government of India Act 1935. But how to appoint them? It is done by the central government, right? Office of governor, that is governor is appointed by the president. But president is actually the central government. Okay, is a part of the central government, you can think. So, central government, prime minister will say, actually president is not appointing, only in letter he appoints. But what the prime minister along with other minister decide, they will say that please appoint this person as the governor, they say. That time the president will appoint. Actually appointment is by the president, but decision is by the prime minister. So that is the meaning, appointment of state governors by the central government. Understood? Okay. President is only nominal head, that is Namka, only for namesake he is the head, but actually real head is who? Prime minister. That's why whenever major decision is taken, we talk about our prime minister, not the president. Okay, we don't talk about our Shri Draupadi Murmu more, we talk about Narendra Modi more. That is because the real power is with the prime minister, not with the president. Understood? So next is advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, there are so many jurisdiction. Jurisdiction means powers. You can say in police station also it has jurisdiction. Only till this area jurisdiction of this Kacheguda police station is there. Only till this much area, jurisdiction of the Himayat Nagar police station. Jurisdiction means the territory which it has power. Okay. Now when I talk about jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, there are various jurisdictions, that is called exclusive jurisdiction, original jurisdiction and advisory jurisdiction. Advisory jurisdiction means Supreme Court can give advice to the government or it can give advice to the president, like that. That advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court is given by Canadian Constitution. That means Supreme Court has the power to give advice. Okay, certain advices can be neglected, but certain advices when it is given, it has to be followed. Okay, that much depth is not required for you. Advisory jurisdiction of Supreme Court by whom? Canadian Constitution. They will give, this feature is taken from which constitution? Canadian Constitution. That much you should know. Advisory jurisdiction of Supreme Court is by Canadian Constitution. Clear? Next. Next is South African Constitution, very important. Amendment procedure of the Constitution. Yesterday in the previous class, okay, for this class also I told fundamental rights, there were 7 fundamental rights, we made it 6. Fundamental rights were 7, we made it 6. Through how? Through constitutional amendment. Which is that amendment? 44th amendment in 1978. Okay, in 1978, 44th amendment was passed. Okay, this one of the 7th fundamental right was removed, that is right to property was removed and it was made a constitutional right. Now we have what? Only 6 fundamental rights. Okay, that is called what? Constitutional amendment. How to amend the constitution? That is given in article 368. Okay, but this article came into being because of the amendment procedure of the constitution given by South Africa. Okay, why? Because in South African constitution so much of amendment took place because there was racial discrimination, okay, between blacks and whites. So the entire South African constitution had to undergo a change. So they amended the constitution many times. So Indian people looked at the South African constitution, how they are amending, they took that feature. Okay, they took that feature and that procedure was inserted into our constitution. That is the amendment procedure of the constitution is given under article 368. Okay, how to amend the constitution is given under article 368, but this procedure or this principle was taken from whom? South African constitution. Okay, whenever in any question amendment comes, you should remember South Africa. Got it? Next, method of election of members to the upper house. Okay, upper house, I told you, we will elect indirectly. Some people we nominate. Okay, nomination of members is told by whom? Irish constitution. Okay, upper house chairman is told by US constitution. Nomination of members, Irish constitution. What about election of members to the upper house? South African constitution. See here. See, let me talk about upper house. Remember this, you can write down, this is very important note. Upper house. Upper house chairman. Chairman of the upper house is spoken by whom? US. Vice President acting as a chairman. Vice President acting as a chairman of upper house is told by US. And nomination of members is told by Irish. And election is told by South Africa. Okay. So upper house has elected members, nominated members and also chairman. Chairman is who? Vice President will act as a chairman. That is told by whom? US constitution. Nomination of members is told by whom? Irish constitution. But when it comes to elected members, it is told by whom? South Africa constitution. These 3 things you have to remember. Like this if you remember, definitely you will not forget. Got it? So upper house has what? That is Vice President will act as a chairman, that is given by America, US constitution, and there are persons who are elected and nominated. Election is given by whom? Election is given by South Africa, but when it comes to nomination is given by Ireland. That's it, simple. Remember like this. If you remember this figure, it's enough. Got it? Whenever upper house comes, only this much you have to remember. Next thing, USSR constitution, that is also called Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, that is also called Russian constitution. Sometimes they will give USSR or they can give Russian constitution. Fundamental duties. Okay, whenever we talk about part 3, we talk about fundamental rights. Part 4, we talk about DPSPs. Part 4A, we talk about fundamental duties. Fundamental duties was not there in the original constitution. It was added through amendment. Okay, added through amendment. The fundamental duties we have. Okay, till now we have how many fundamental duties? We have 11 fundamental duties, that is given by Russian constitution. Okay, it was added in 1978 44th Amendment Act. For fundamental duties, there was a committee that was made, that is Swaran Singh committee. Swaran Singh committee was made for fundamental duties. He suggested 11, but the government, that is that time it was Indira Gandhi government, they took only 10. But later 11 fundamental duty was added, that is in 2005 or 2010, that is Right to Education Act. Through that 11 fundamental duty was added. Okay, so today there are 11 fundamental duties. Understood? Okay. Next, ideals of justice, social, economic and political. So when I say preamble, I will say objectives of the preamble. That time I will say it as, I will ask you to remember like this: justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. When I talk justice, it is socio, economic and political. Okay. When I say justice, it is socio, economic and political. This concept is given by Russian constitution. Got it? This concept is given by Russian constitution. Clear? When I deal preamble, you will understand even more better. But that time I will revise again. So ideals of justice, social, economic and political is given by whom? Russian constitution. You have to remember this. Okay. So justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, these are the objectives that are present in the preamble. When I talk about justice, what kind of justice? Social justice and economic justice. When there is social justice, that time you will have economic justice. When both are there, that time you will have political justice. So this justice, whenever I talk about justice, you should remember what? Russian constitution. Clear? You should remember Russian constitution. So when we talk about Russia, it is talking about fundamental duties, it is talking about justice. Got it? Judiciary is by Government of India Act. Independent judiciary is by US. Got it? That's it. Now removal of president is by US. Removal of judges is by US. Okay. Appointment of president. Appointment of president is by Irish. Okay. Like that. Let us check. Why you have to have doubt? Let us see. Irish. Okay, got it. Like that you have to remember. Removal, who is appointing, all these things. And upper house, you already know what is to be done. Now French constitution. Now French constitution, see in French, the French Revolution took place and they brought about the idea of republic. Republic means suppose a person is there. Okay, a person is ruling the country. Till now, before the government was there, we had some kings ruling us, correct? No, the king was inherited king, that is, if I am the king, my son will also become a king. Okay, like that. They were ruling the country. That means what? There was no republic. That means that person was not elected. Here republic means the head of the country or the head of the state. State here means country itself, but state has a bigger meaning. Okay, the state has a bigger meaning, and the republic means head of the state should be elected. Head of the state should be elected. That is head of the state. The person who is head of the state, when we talk about head of the state, you should remember it is president, not the prime minister. When we talk about head of the government, it is prime minister. Head of the state means it is president. Is president elected? Yes, it is elected. The president is elected. Although indirectly elected, he is elected. So we are republic. India is republic. That's why in the preamble also we have sovereign socialist republic. Correct? No? Sovereign socialist secular democratic republic. We have republic. So republic means head of the state should be elected. Also I told you laws which are made should not be arbitrary. It should be as per the provisions of the constitution. It should be for the welfare of the people. Otherwise judicial review will take place. The word judicial review, like I told, federation is not mentioned in the constitution. Judicial review is also not mentioned in the constitution, but it is implicitly mentioned. Judicial review is implicitly means it is mentioned indirectly under Article 12. Judicial review is mentioned under Article 12 indirectly, that is implicitly, not directly. Got it? But it is nowhere mentioned in the constitution. Indirectly mentioned, but the word judicial review is not there in the constitution. Got it? Now people can wake up. Now republic is there from French constitution. Next, ideals of liberty, equality, fraternity in the preamble. See, I told you justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. This is in the preamble. I told this justice is from what? Russia. Justice is from what? Russia. This liberty, equality, fraternity is from what? France. Like this you remember. Got it? So justice, liberty, equality, fraternity is in the preamble. Justice, social, economic and political. Whenever I say justice, I told you how to remember Russia. Liberty, equality, fraternity, you have to remember France. That's it. So France, what are the things it is giving? Republic and also liberty, equality, fraternity. Justice is from Russia. Got it? Russia also talks about fundamental duties. That's it. Let us move to the next one. Weimar Constitution, or also called German Constitution, that is suspension of the fundamental rights during emergency, that is national emergency. So national emergency means there is some kind of threat to the nation because of internal reasons or external reason. That time you cannot say that I am having fundamental rights, I will roam wherever I want. You cannot say. That time police will catch you and put in jail. Okay, that time certain fundamental rights will be suspended, except certain fundamental rights. One of the fundamental rights that cannot be suspended is Article 21. Article 21 says right to life. Okay, just because there is national emergency, nobody can come and kill you. Okay, that cannot be suspended. At any cost, Article 21 cannot be suspended. Okay, like that there are certain fundamental rights which cannot be suspended. Okay, that is given by suspension of fundamental rights during emergency. But certain other fundamental rights can be suspended, like Article 14 can be suspended. Okay, Article 17 can be suspended, something like that. Article 15 can be suspended, Article 16 can be suspended. Okay, example I am giving. But precisely if I say Article 21 can never be suspended, that is Article 21 is talking about what? Right to life. Just because national emergency is there, I cannot come and kill you. Okay, that cannot be suspended. Okay, that is the meaning of suspension of fundamental rights during national emergency. Other fundamental rights can be suspended. That is given by whom? German Constitution. Fundamental rights is spoken by one US, and suspension, regarding suspension is spoken by Germany. Like this you remember. Got it? Clear? Let us move to the next one. Next, Australian Constitution, very important, concurrent list. I told you while I talking about federation, it is divided into three lists: union list, state list and concurrent list. Remaining, that is leftover food, residuary powers will go to you, that is the person who brought it. That is called what? Residuary powers. The concurrent list is given by whom? Australian Constitution. Australian Constitution. Okay. Now there is something called joint sitting of two houses of the parliament. Joint sitting of two houses of the parliament. Observe here carefully, focus now carefully. I will tell you one very important concept. Suppose a bill is there. Okay. Here there is Rajya Sabha. Here there is Lok Sabha. This also does not agree. This also does not agree for the bill. Or this will agree, but this will not agree. Or this will not agree, or this will agree. That time what will happen? Only for certain bills. That time this people or this people come and sit in one place. That is actually in parliament. That is in Lok Sabha itself. That is called what? Joint sitting. Otherwise, Rajya Sabha will be separate, Lok Sabha will be separate. One certain bill you have to discuss, that definitely has to be passed. That time, when it is not passed, we call it as deadlock. To resolve that deadlock, there will be joint sitting. Rajya Sabha people, Lok Sabha people will come and sit. Okay, that is called what? Joint sitting. You don't agree, then you come and sit together and discuss. That is called as what? Joint sitting. That is given by what? Australian Constitution. Australian Constitution is talking about concurrent list and also joint sitting. Clear? Next, Japanese Constitution. Japanese Constitution is talking about procedure established by law. Japanese Constitution is talking about procedure established by law. That is, whatever you do, you should do as per the procedure of the law. That is, some person cannot come and arrest you without telling you the reason. Certain times they have to tell the reason, certain times they need not tell the reason. Okay, that is the meaning of procedure established by law. I am telling about an example. That is the meaning of what? Procedure established by law. Okay, if you have to put you into judicial custody, there is some procedure. If they have to give you what? Bail, there is some procedure. If they have to leave you on parole, parole means you are still under sentence, but you are left out for some days. That is the meaning of parole. Okay, that is the meaning of parole. There is a nice movie in Telugu and Tamil. It was done by JM Ravi. You can watch Parole. Okay, it is a nice movie. The person will come out on parole and does so many things, good things. That is the meaning of parole. Okay, so procedure established by law, that is given by whom? Japanese Constitution. Clear? Next, we will see some questions. Indian federal structure is inspired by which model of the country is given below? Indian federal structure is followed by whom? Indian federal structure. I told Indian Federation is a federation. Okay, Indian Federation, I told you, we have separation of powers between states and central government. Okay, but at certain times, central government will become powerful. That means federation with a strong center we are having. Indian federal structure means you should always remember federation with strong center. That is, we are not completely federal, we are quasi-federal. We call it as partially federal, that is also called quasi-federal. Okay, that is called quasi-federal. Okay, quasi-federal means it is not completely federal, that is federation with a strong center, that is Canada. USA, it is complete federation. It is complete federation. It is perfect example of federation. Even USA, Switzerland and Russia also. But here when it comes to Canada, it is federation but with a strong central government. Same thing we also have. We have strong central government. Our central government is stronger than any state government. So that is why our federal structure is same as Canada. This you must understand. I also told you judicial review. Okay, certain times when laws are passed by the government, okay, the public also has the right to file the case. We can file the litigation on them. That is called public interest litigation. That is called what? PIL. You can see it in news. PIL. Okay, we file the PIL. This was started by one person. His name is Justice P.N. Bhagwati. This is P.N. Bhagwati. He passed away in the recent years, so there can be a question. Okay, PIL, you have to remember Justice P.N. Bhagwati, very prominent person. PIL means suppose there is a law which I don't like. Okay, that time I can also approach the court. Okay, although I am not affected by the law directly, I can also approach the court. That is called what? Public interest litigation. Okay, this is the meaning of public interest litigation. Now, federation with a strong center is Canada. Let us move to the next question. India has borrowed the concept of fundamental rights. Fundamental rights, USA. Suspension of fundamental rights, Germany. Okay, suspension of fundamental rights during national emergency, that is by Germany. Next, the phrase equality before law used in the Article 14 of the Indian Constitution has been borrowed from the Constitution of Britain. That is rule of law, that is equality before law, that is Britain. Okay. The idea of concurrent list. The idea of concurrent list, you have to tell me, idea of concurrent list is from which constitution? Concurrent list, I told you just now, Australia. Joint sitting and concurrent list is by Australia. Very good. So that is Australia. Next, DPSPs. I told you fundamental rights is by USA. Similarly, directive principles of state policy is by Irish. Good. So it is Irish constitution, that is Ireland. Okay, clear? Directive principles of state policy by Ireland. Now, which of the correct matching of the countries and borrowed features? This is in the form of match the following. Okay, so see here, when I talk about UK, bicameral legislature is correct. Bicameralism is given by USA, that is Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, that is correct. Now, when I talk about US, removal of the Supreme Court and High Court judges, this is also perfectly correct. Okay, so one should be with one that should be, which of the following are correctly matched? One should be there and also 4 should be there. Which option is having 1 and 4? These also having, these also having. So let us see. Okay, Ireland, method of election of president, Ireland, that is correct. Method of election of president, that is Ireland, that is correct. So 1, 4 and 5 should be there. Okay, but here there is no 5. So this is the correct answer for us. So this is the correct answer. That is option C is the correct answer. Ireland is talking about method of election of the president. US is talking about removal of Supreme Court High Court judges, and US is also talking about removal of president. Method of election of president is by Ireland. Okay, now Australia, USSR, independence of judiciary and judicial review, this is by US. Okay, judicial review or independent judiciary. Judicial review and independent judiciary is spoken by whom? It is spoken by US. And when I talk about Australia, Australia is not talking about 5-year plan, it is Russia is talking about 5-year plan. 5-year plan is spoken by Russia. This you have to make a note of it. Understood? 5-year plan is by Russia. If you want, I will take it up. See here. When I spoke about US, see here, I spoke about independent judiciary, independence of the judiciary and judicial review. Okay, and removal of Supreme Court High Court judges, that is also US. It is not Russia. Okay, got it. Russia is 5-year plans. Okay, these are all the things which you have to remember when it comes to sources of the constitution. Okay, along with sources, we have discussed so many principles, and I have also explained each of the principles in brief for you to understand. Okay, so when I discuss other chapters, upcoming chapters, you will have some idea about all these features, so that you will not be blank when I discuss those concepts. Again, we will revise these concepts in the upcoming classes. I hope it will be useful. Okay, please revise this again. Take care. Let's meet in the next session. Thank you.